All right, Shalom. This is Howard Warren by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. We're here in Jacksonville, Florida. I want to say Kyle Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Harakak Wadash, Mouth. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, and Agwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. Salaki for the congestion. This comes from dust. I guess it was a dust mite that flew up my nasal. Been healing up from that for the past couple of days. Now, you get rid of that with a lot of steam and onions, nasal cleanser like salt and water. All right, just in case anybody runs into that issue with all the dust in the air, or in my case, if you forget to change your filter. Very simple. But let's get into this lesson dealing with this chariot that popped up back in 1976 over Tehran, which would be over Iran. Now, this report stuck out to me because it makes me think of Ezekiel chapter 1, clearly. All right, what Ezekiel saw back in 592 BC when he was by the river Kibar, and the Lord showed him visions of the heavenly host. All right, so this is the article. It was confidential for 20 years, man. Or so like all the way until 2020, it was confidential, meaning nobody could speak on it, no government official, nobody. So they already know about the chariots, man. All right, it says now you see it, now you don't. Right, because after the Cold War, that's when they started pushing the idea. That was the first known in America article about what they call flying saucers. All right, they reported it, said it was like a saucer, and then after that they started calling them flying saucers. But they know they the chariots of the Lord in the scriptures, man. All right, these elites. But they want to paint them as aliens, or little green demons, so people won't look for their salvation, in these chariots. They won't look for the Lord's return. They'll be looking like it's some damn War of the Worlds alien attack. All right, it says Captain Henry S. Shields, HQ. It says sometime in his career, each pilot can expect to encounter strange, unusual happenings, which will never be adequately or entirely explained by logic, right? Or subsequent investigation. So I'm gonna get a scripture on with that in mind. All right. It was 76, and that was around the time. I'm gonna get another scripture too. Matter of fact. All right, let's start with this one. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, man. So when they see these chariots, man, these people are troubled, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. This is strange to these people. It's something coming from the fourth dimension. You know what I mean? So it says here, strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for, man. So far beyond all that these people are looking for. That's gonna be the hopeful elects, the elect's salvation. All right. So now, he said it was strange to him. The account was strange. They got that show Stranger Things. All right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get this other precept too. Let me get Obadiah. Obadiah 1. There you go. Obadiah 1 and 4, or 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, and saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? So around that time, especially in the 60s and the 50s, in the roaring 20s, here in America in the 70s, that's when America really started falling. Because around the 70s, that's when Abba Bivens started teaching. And that's when they started sending their satellites and space stations out into the atmosphere. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, that's their symbol, just like the Roman Empire, and they exalt themselves high into the heavens. That's why it's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. A new, basically represents rulership. And though thou set thy nest as the stars, thence will I bring thee down, man. All right, so they started setting their space stations and satellites out into the heavens, in space, and that's when the Lord started bringing them down. Mainly around the 1970s. All right, when this word started getting pushed and preached here on the soils of America, going into Revelations chapter 11 and Ezekiel 37. All right, so it says, sometime in his career, each pilot can expect to encounter strange, unusual happenings which will never be adequately or entirely explained by logic or subsequent investigation. The following article recounts just such an episode as reported by two F-4 Phantom crews of the Imperial Iranian Air Force during late 1976. See? And that's when they started popping up over here in America too. They called them Foo Fighters, flying saucers, UFOs. No additional information or explanation of the strange events has been forthcoming. The story will be filed away and probably forgotten, but it makes interesting and possibly disturbing reading. They filed it away and forgot about it. All right. It says until 0030. I forgot what that is. Let me look that up. I know I do military time, but I forgot this right here. Time. Oops. All right, so the military time will be around 12 a.m. in the morning. All right, so until about 12:30 in the morning, on a clear autumn morning, it had been an entirely routine night watch for the Imperial Iranian Air Force command post in the Tehran area. In quick succession, 4 calls arrived from one of the city's suburbs reporting a series of strange airborne objects, man. Strange to them. It's going to be strange to these people. It's something coming from a whole nother dimension into this dimension. Angels. These unidentified flying objects, meaning they don't know how to identify them, but we can identify them according to the scriptures. They just choose not to identify them. These unidentified flying objects, meaning it was multiple ones, not just one, were described as bird-like. I'm gonna read that again. These unidentified flying objects were described as bird-like, man. And we know the scripture with that. All right. Get that real quick. Because that's how this deliverance is coming. The angels going to be flying in military formation. All right. It says here, Isaiah 31:5. As birds flying, see, they're like birds in V formation. As birds flying, or a flock of birds in the sky, so will Yahweh, the Lord of armies, see, like military, defend Jerusalem. So the Lord's gonna send his angels to defend his elect in these last days. That's why he said, thou worm Jacob, he said, don't worry, he shall help us. He's gonna send help. And he said, what? Defend Jerusalem, defending, also he will deliver it, man. So in the midst of zapping these heathens and these nations and scaring the hell out of them, he said that's what these are set up for, to fray these nations, meaning to chase them off and fright. That's what the Lord got the angels set up, man, to defend us. But also they're going to be delivering the elect, according to Psalms 91. It said, they shall bear thee up in their hands. They, meaning those angels, are going to take you into the chariots, and take you to Yahushua. And passing over, he will preserve it, man. This is going to be the new Passover, all right, the second Passover, where the Lord is going to have some that are going to be exempt from the judgment that's coming. So he's going to deliver his elect from out of the clefts of the rock. All right. So it says what? They were bird-like, man. That goes into Ezekiel 1. All right, let me get in the lexicon. This is Ezekiel 1:5. Also out of the midst thereof, meaning once he saw these chariots, verse 4, it says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. All right. Came out of the north. A great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, see, a brightness, it was brilliant, it was glowing, it was moving about it too, you know, like a strobe light. And out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire, and also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And creatures doesn't mean like monsters. It means they're living, but they're not human. And their creation is just like us. All right, that's what it means. And this was their appearance. This is how they look. They had the likeness of a man. See, they look like men. It says period. Not, they didn't look like green demons that these Edomites like Aleister Crowley used to worship. They draw pictures of it, got big black eyes and green skin. That's what they worship. All right, and the Knights Templar, they used to do that too. That's where it first started at. But right, it says what? They look like men. So this is how the angels look. They have the likeness of a man. All right, and just like the angel that was in the fire with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah during the time of Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. They saw the angel. They threw him into the oven, 3 of them. 3 of the Israelite men, the men of the Lord. And next thing you know, they looked, it was 4 men in there, not a creature. You know, it was one like unto the Son of Man. Looked just like us. All right. So it says here, it looked like men, and every one had their four faces, meaning their four rankings. You know what they were over. These were the top ones. They were over, just like having somebody that's over the Navy, over the Air Force, and over the Army. All right. So it says everyone had their four faces, and everyone had their four wings. So each chariot had four chariots with it, like a fleet of chariots. This is what Ezekiel was seeing. He was seeing a fleet of chariots that looked like birds in the sky. They were moving in formation, what you would call V formation. If you click on that word birds, so like your wings, it's like a wingman. It would be what? The edge, a flap. It says of a bird or an army. So a wingman of an army, or of a bird. All right, and in this article, or when I heard the guy, this Iranian speaking, couldn't really understand him. It was old. He was telling the story. He said, "Yo, he saw one chariot, and then four chariots came out of the back of it. It matched up perfectly with scripture." So let's get back to the article. All right. Matter of fact, let me get one more precept. This is Psalms chapter 1. That's right, man. This is Psalms 91 and 1. It says Psalms 91 and 3. Because remember, he said, defending, he shall also deliver. So this is the deliverance part right here. Psalms 91 and 3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, the trap that Esau is setting for the bird, Israel, and from the noisome pestilence, the missiles, the destruction. He shall cover thee with his feathers. He's going to give charge to his angels over you. The feathers represent his angels, individuals. And under his wings shalt thou trust. So under his chariots, swing low, sweet chariot coming forth to carry us home. All right. So under his wings, it says as the birds or a military. All right. So under his wings, we're going to trust. Now let's go back to the article. These unidentified flying objects were described as bird-like or as brightly lit helicopters. Wow. That's deep, man. It wasn't moving fast like a jet just across the sky. They were kind of stationary. And like a helicopter causes winds all around it. That's what Ezekiel saw. He saw commotion in the sky. All right. One article I read, it said when the chariots popped up, it kind of vacuumed and sucked all the air out of the sky. They said that's what it felt like. All right. Although none were airborne at the time, so there were no helicopters at this time when they saw it. These were chariots. Wow. Unable to convince the callers that they were only seeing stars, a senior officer went outside to see for himself, observing an object to the north. There you go again, to the north. And it looked like a star, only larger and brighter. He immediately scrambled an F4 to investigate. Let's get that real quick. This is Matthew 2 and 2. Actually, I'll go from 1. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. It's around 4 BCE, saying, where is he And it wasn't three wise men. There were a group of Israelite men, just like you have the brothers teaching on the corner today. It was a group of them, like a camp, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east." Man, see, it looked like a star. All right. Now, the reason Herod was against the Lord, even as a baby, they feared him, man. So, what do you think they? Why do you think they? That shows more why they're willing to destroy our children and our people today. Because they know how powerful we are. They even they tried to go at them as a child, and they weren't worrying about him being the Lord. They were worried about him being king over Israel. Because if we had a king, then we would be sovereign, and they didn't want that as the Roman Empire. They wanted us to be serfs to them. All right. Saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews?" See, they didn't want us to have a king. Just like today. "For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." All right, and these are the wise men that were saying that. But Herod was against him. All right, so let me get to the point. Verse 9. "And when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy," just like we do. When we see the star, that stars, we know there's angels in those chariots, and that they represent Yahweh Shem Shai, or Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, the heavenly host. That's our deliverance. So we rejoice with exceeding gladness. But the world look at it as aliens. All right, so let's see what's in that star. It gets deeper if you go to Luke. Let's go to Luke. This is Luke chapter 2, verse 7. It tells you who was in those stars, or the star that led the wise men to Yahushua. So they could bring him frankincense, myrrh, and gold, or whatever. Because those are things that you would offer to a king on your deliverance. Like if you was visiting another country, when you get there, you would give them gifts of frankincense, which was more expensive than gold at that time, and gold and myrrh, you know. But they gave this to the child. So he's our king. They knew he was the king, is the king. Luke 2 and 7, "And she brought forth her firstborn," talking about Mary, that was born from Joseph and Mary, "and wrapped him in a swaddling cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." Right, it was around the high holy day, like the Passover. They have no room in the inn, you know, so everybody traveled there. "And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field," and they weren't abiding in the field in the winter; it was in the springtime. All right, watching over the sheep, "keeping watch over their flock by nighttime." See that? In the winter, they would bring them into the barns. "And lo, the angel of the Lord," see, the same angel that was in these chariots, the star, "came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were so afraid," man. You know, you see the chariot, you'll be scared, but you'll be joyful at the same time. The presence of the Lord around you, it'll be a glow, you know, a bright shine that can shine all around you. Now it says here, "And the angel said unto them," mind you, they seeing this back then, before there were planes even thought about. "The angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people." And this might be Gabriel speaking, maybe. "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Yahweh Shai, uh, Hamashiach or Ha-Adanya, Ha-Adan, which would be the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find a babe wrapped in the swaddling cloths, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel, see, suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts praising Yahweh and saying, so out of nowhere they looked and it was more angels that was in this chariot. Glory to Yahweh in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven. How did they go away? In the chariots. The same chariots that led them to Yahushua, now they were done, and they were going back to the Father. The shepherds said one to another, let us go even unto Bethlehem and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. So it's a prophecy happening. They said they were angels. You see that? Now, so let's get back to this article. It says, observing an object to the north like a star. See, same thing. In the north, and as a star. It says only larger and brighter. It was close. He immediately scrambled F4 and F4 to investigate. Approaching the city, the F4 pilot reported that the brilliant object, it was brilliant, man, meaning bright, like dazzling, like a diamond, like a terrible crystal. Not meaning terrible being ugly, but terrible meaning bright. It was so bright, you couldn't look at it. It says the brilliant object was easily visible 70 miles away. So you could be 70 miles away and you could see it. When approximately 25 nautical miles distance, the interceptor lost all instrumentation. So these fighter jets get too close to the chariots, they're going to lose all power in their machines, man. Matter of fact, all right, because you can read Ezekiel 13, it's going to be the same thing. When Yahushua shows up and he flies up on that giant chariot like a mountain, and all the nations come at him to fight him, they're going to fight him with what? Machines, AI technology, Air Force, Navy, missiles, whatever they can shoot at the Lord. But it says this, 2 Ezra 13 and 37. And this my son, talking about Yahushua, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations. So the Lord going to rebuke their inventions, man, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, man. All right. So they cannot match their equipment to something from another dimension. All right. But the Lord created the angels and their vehicles, the chariots, man, war chariots, also set up to deliver. All right. So it says what? You're going to put them all to shame. Now it says, so this fighter jet got close to it and it lost all functions. And it couldn't communicate with their tower. Upon breaking off the intercept and turning towards his home base, all systems returned to normal. Like defense, like, yo, the more you come against me, I'm going to shut you down. But if you turn away, I'll leave you alone. As if the strange object no longer regarded the aircraft as a threat. Deep, man. If the chariot wanted to, it could have destroyed that aircraft. But it's all about the will of Yahweh. It says a second F4 was scrambled 10 minutes after the first. The backseater reported radar lock on the UFO, or the chariot, at 27 nautical miles, around 12 o'clock, high position. So it was like above them, and a rate of closure of 150 knots. Upon reaching the 25 nautical mile point, the object began rapidly moving away to maintain the chariot began rapidly moving away to maintain a constant separation distance while still visible on the radar scope. Wow. So the closer they got, the more the chariot kept moving back away. It's sort of like a position of dominance, man. I can destroy you, but I'm not. So I'm gonna show you. Get away from me. It ain't time yet. The object began rapidly moving away to maintain a constant separation distance while still visible on the radar scope, while the size of the radar return was comparable to that of a KC-135, basically an aircraft carrier. So that's how big it was. It was big as an aircraft carrier, man, in the sky. The aircraft carrier was, I guess the ones in the. Let me see what this is. All right, so a KC-135 is a stratosphere tanker, a Boeing KC-135 compared to a jet. You gotta look that up, man. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you. All right, so basically a fueler. That's how big it was compared to their jets. So that's how big the Chariots are. All right, so it says its intense brilliance, meaning brightness or brilliance, made estimation of actual size impossible. So because it was so bright, you couldn't tell how the actual vehicle, the brightness was like glowing so dense and intense. Excuse me. It resembled a what? It said it resembled flashing strobe lights arranged in a rectangular pattern. So it was like rectangles all around it, and it looked like strobe lights. It's deep, man. Like a spectrum of colors. And the pattern was an alternating blue, green, red, and orange, man. Orange like amber. Their sequence was so fast that all colors could be seen at once. Beautiful, man. Beautiful chariots, man. Let me get that. It matches up perfect with scripture, Ezekiel 1 and 4 again. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. See, just like on here, he said out of the north. And it was a whirlwind, kind of like a helicopter. Causes winds. A great cloud, chariot, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire, man. So it was like all kind of colors. This is Revelations 10:1. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with the cloud, man, the chariot. So it's going to be inside the chariots, the angels. And a rainbow was upon his head. So the top of the chariot looked like a rainbow. It was all kind of colors, as we just read. And his face was as it were the sun, so it was bright, a bright chariot, brilliant. And his feet as pillars of fire, man. So same fire by day, fire by night, cloud by day. So it was lights all around it. All right, it would look like a rainbow, spectrum of colors, all in the scriptures, man. All right, so let's finish this article a little bit. So this is interesting, man. I was reading it, I was like, oh man, this is prophecy right here, and they swept this under the rug. The kingdom is going to be brilliant, as they keep saying. All right, that word brilliant, it means to be shining. So it's shining so bright. It says beryl. Wow. All right. So quality of being brilliant. No, it's a shining bright. Now it says, as the F4. All right, so now it says their sequence was so fast that all colors could be seen at once, just like a rainbow. And as the F4 continued pursuit south of Tehran, a second brightly lit object, about 1/2 to 1/3 the size of the moon. It detached from the original UFO or chariot and headed straight for, man, so you know, and headed straight for the F4 at a high range of speed. The pilot attempted to fire an AIM-9 missile at the new object, but was prevented by a sudden power loss in his weapon control panel. So these heathen, they have no chance against the Lord's army. UHF and internal communications were simultaneously lost. The pilot promptly initiated a turn and negative G dive to escape. They were scared, man. They were trying to get the hell out of there. But the object fell in behind the F4 at 3-4 nautical miles distance. Continuing to turn, the chariot was on his heels, following him, playing a game of cat and mouse in the sky. The pilot observed the second object turn inside of him and then away. So it was, if the pilot was making a circle, this chariot went inside of the circle, like moving quicker than him. And usually planes can't do that. It was doing all kind of maneuvers around him. All right. The UFO for a perfect rendezvous now. Continuing to turn, the pilot observed the second object turn inside of him and then away, subsequently returning to the primary UFO for a perfect rendezvous. So that chariot that detached from the one chariot went straight back to it, chased this jet away, and then went back to the chariot and attached back to it. The two UFOs had hardly rejoined when a second object detached and headed straight down toward the ground at high speed. Having regained weapons and communication systems, the aircrew watched the third object, anticipating a large explosion when it struck the ground. However, it landed gently and cast a bright light over a 2 to 3 kilometer area, man. That was the glory of the Lord from the chariots. Just like the shepherds saw. They said the glory shined upon them when their chariot showed up. However, it landed gently and cast a bright light over a 2 to 3 kilometer area. The pilot flew as low over the area as possible, fixing the object's exact location. Upon return to home base, both crewmen had difficulty. They had difficulty adjusting their night vision devices for landing. The landing was further complicated by excessive interference on UHF and a further complete loss of all communications when passing through a 150-degree magnetic barrier from the home base. The inertial navigation system simultaneously fluctuated from 30 to 50 degrees. All right, when on a long final approach, the F4 crew noted a further UFO Wow. So they saw one further away. It said it was another one. This was described as a cylinder-shaped object about the size of a T-33 trainer. Let's see what that is. All right, this is a T-33 trainer. You know, the old military planes from World War One and World War Two. All right. So they said it was about the size of one of these. All right. So while on a long final approach, the F-4 created crew. The F-4 crew noted a further UFO, a further chariot. This was described as a cylinder-shaped object, like a pillar, about the size of a T-33 trainer, with bright, steady lights on each end and a flasher in the middle. Wow, he's describing the chariots, man. It quickly approached and passed directly over the F-4, so it was quick. In answer to the pilot's query, or question, or inquiry, the control tower reported no other air traffic in the area. So they couldn't pick it up on the blip, on the radar. Or they picked it up, but they were saying, no, it wasn't theirs. You know, it's not American or Iranian, I should say. Although they subsequently obtained a visual sighting of the object when specifically directed where to look. So when somebody told them where to look, they could see it. Man, let me get this real quick. Let me get, let me go to Zechariah real quick. I think it's 5:1. It says Zechariah chapter 5 verse 1, and it says here, then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. So we got the chariots that is described in Ezekiel, and then you got a flying roll, like a pillar or a roll of a book, a cylinder. All right. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And this is way back before there were planes even thought about, around 522 BC or 520 BC, when Zechariah was prophesying. All right, during the time of Darius the Persian, the second year of his rulership. So he saw the same objects back then. The length thereof, how long was it? It says the length. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see, you can see it, a flying roll like a cylinder. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits, man. So it was twice as long as it was the width. All right, and if you understand that, it would be as long as a little longer than a school bus. So about the size of one of these T-33s. All right. It says the following day, back to the article. All right. No, matter of fact, verse 3. Zechariah 5:3. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. That's why they saw it in Iran as well. Not just over here in America. This goes around the whole world, these chariots. The same thing going to happen in these times. It said the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. And he's going to send them off through the four corners of the earth to deliver his elect. All right. Now, the following day, the F-4 crew was flown by helicopter to the location where they believed the object had landed. This turned out to be a dry lake bed, but nothing unusual was noticed. As the helicopter circled off the west, however, a very noticeable beeper signal was received and eventually traced to a nearby house. They immediately landed and asked the inhabitants of anything strange or unusual, if anything strange or unusual had occurred the previous night. Yes, they replied. There had been loud noises and a very bright light, like lightning. This is Matthew 24 and 26. It says, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. That's funny because you got all these false prophets out here. They'll say, hey, meet me here, meet me there. The Lord, it's going to be all kind of deception. One of the guys was, what they call him? Prophet Yahweh. Yahweh. He used to be out there in the Las Vegas telling people to come out there and see him. And he'd say the Chariots. He was calling down Chariots from years back. And he was actually putting balloons up in the sky. Sometimes he had video of real chariots, but he acted like he knew the Lord. This guy named Prophet, they called him Prophet Yahweh, whatever. That was the wrong name. But he was telling people to come out there to the desert in Las Vegas, and that the Lord was going to meet him there, like on a certain date and everything. And when and he had people coming out there to meet him. And from what I heard from him on video and the people that was out there, he was giving men colostomies, colonoscopy. Damn, you know what I'm talking about. Basically digging up their ass and shit in his tub. Saying he was cleansing them out. See, that's why the Lord said, if somebody say what? He's in the desert. All right. If they say he's in the desert, don't take your ass out there. Go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, like the fake Jews. They say they got the Messiah over there. It says what? Believe them not. All right? Believe them not. Don't believe it. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, so it's going to be like lightning, bright lights, man. Glory. Out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. See that? All right. So, it says, wheresoever the carcass is, there shall the eagles be gathered. So that's where the angels are going to be sent to gather the elect. And also during that time, it's going to be martial law. All hell breaking loose. So, now, what was I at? This turned out to be a dry lake bed, but nothing unusual. Okay, now, okay, I guess I'm right here. It says, yes, they replied. There had been loud noises and a very bright light, like lightning. The helicopter returned to base and arrangements were made to conduct various tests, such as radiation checks, in the vicinity of the house. Unfortunately, the results of such tests have not been reported. All right, so I guess I ended there, but this was an article I was reading, confidential, but not anymore, called Now You See It, Now You Don't. A guy named Captain Henry S. Shields. It says 1976 over Tehran, over Iran. All right, so those Iran better get ready because they're going to see the chariots again. There's even a video of a chariot over there in Iran. Let me get that. All right, here's the video. Some saying it's fake. or not, but it's still a good example of how the chariots can maneuver past these people's weapons. All right, so Iran better get ready. They're going to see him again, as they already have seen him. But when the Lord shows up, um, right, when he gets revealed to the world with the heavenly host, it's going to put fear in all these nations, man. Revelation 1:7, behold, he cometh with clouds. So Yahweh Shai is coming with the chariots of the Most High, with the angels, thousands of angels in them, in those chariots. And every eye shall see him. So all these nations are going to see the chariots. All right. And they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen.